Would be banned. I mean, this is like beyond Orwell now.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next, The Rise of the Hillbilly, a speech by author J.D. Vance.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you guys. Great to be here. Wow, what a crowd. This is awesome. I've even got some of my family here, so it's going to get especially rowdy here. So I wanted to introduce myself to those of you watching on TV and also those of you in the audience who don't know who I am. I am J.D. Vance. I'm a business guy, but I am now the Republican Senate nominee in the state of Ohio. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take that Senate. I grew up in southwestern Ohio. I was raised by my mama and papa, who came from southeastern Kentucky, coal country. And if you know anything about our background or anything about my life, you know that my mama was not always a conventional woman. She was different in ways big and small. So she died actually in 2005, right before I left to go to Iraq. I was an enlisted Marine for 4 years. And I remember when mama, thank you. And I remember when Mamaw died, we discovered 19 loaded handguns all around her house. And we were sort of wondering, we always knew she was a gun person. She was pro Second Amendment before it was cool. We were wondering, why are they in the wardrobe? Why are they in the silverware drawer? And we realized that Mamaw, who couldn't get around that well towards the end of her life, she wanted to make sure that no matter where she was at any moment, she was within arm's reach of a gun, and she could bust a cap if she needed to. So we believed in the Second Amendment in my family before it was cool, but she was not just a lover of the Second Amendment. She was an incredible woman. She was a disciplinarian. She was tough. She could be firm. She could be firm with the people she loved and also the people she didn't know. I remember when I came home from school one day and I said, Mamaw, this was right after we invaded Iraq in April of 2003. I said, Mamaw, I would like to enlist in the U.S. Marine Corps. And she said, no, you're not. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, because I'm not letting anybody go in the Marine Corps given what's going on. She loved the Marines. She loved the individual Marines, but she was scared, like a lot of young parents and grandparents are for their kids. And so when I brought the recruiter over to our house to try to persuade her that she should let me enlist in the United States Marine Corps, she told the recruiter, if you step 1 foot on my porch, I'll blow it off. And so they had a conversation about the U.S. Marine Corps while she stood up on her porch and he stood in the yard, and that was how he eventually persuaded my Mamaw that I could join the Marine Corps. And the reason I'm running for Senate, the reason that I love this country is because the country was so good to me. The people who are here, supporting me, the people who are always there for me, everybody from, public school teachers who took an interest in me to the Marine Corps drill instructors who provided needed discipline. This country, ladies and gentlemen, is a great place, and it was an especially great place to a kid like me. And for that reason, I believe it's time to step up, it's time to fight for it, and ladies and gentlemen, it is time to save this country and do it in the right way. Now you think about, where else but America could a kid who grew up in a poor family in southwestern Ohio be running for the U.S. Senate at the age of 38? Where else could a kid who grew up, in a non-traditional family where things weren't always easy have the opportunity and the ability to start a business and to be a husband, a good father, to raise 3 children in a city that we love? This country, ladies and gentlemen, don't ever let them tell you that it's not worth fighting for. Don't ever let them tell you that it's not worth saving. Because a country that can provide those dreams and those rights and those opportunities to a kid like me is a country that we need to save. And ladies and gentlemen, at this conference, we are dedicated to doing just that. Now, I was endorsed in my race by President Trump, and I expect that hopefully he'll come back to the state of Ohio and campaign with us a little bit. But there was something that President Trump said, something that never got as much attention as I thought it should, because you hear a lot about this word dreamers, about people who are in this country, some of them in this country illegally, and about the dreams that they have. And he said that, what we never talk enough about is that American citizens have dreams too. And I think about that at this moment when so many of our citizens, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the policies of the Democrats and the Biden administration, thanks to the woke corporations who silence Americans and ship American jobs overseas, there are a lot of American citizens that are having their dreams challenged. And ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we here in this room fought for them, and that's exactly what we are going to do. Now, when you grow up in a family that doesn't have a lot of money, there are little things that you notice, little things that you might not notice, and so I want to just tell you something very briefly. I was talking to somebody who was involved in the grocery business, and he told me that one of the things that they're seeing right now is that people aren't buying hamburger and hot dog buns as much, they're buying a lot of white bread. And I remember in my mamaw's house, when money got especially tight, that was one of the first things that you cut out, is you replaced hamburger and hot dog buns with white bread. So why is it that American families all across this country are buying white bread? It's because the Joe Biden economy has made it hard for families to have hot dogs with hot dog buns, and that is an unacceptable thing. Ladies and gentlemen, our people, our American citizens have dreams too, and one of those dreams is that they should be able to have a family cookout with hamburger buns, and they should be able to fill up their gas tank with a reasonable price gasoline. Those are the dreams of our people, and those are the dreams that we need to defend. But they've got other dreams too. Our people dream of being able to send their children to school where they're taught that American history is something to be proud of and not something to be ashamed of. Our people, they dream of being able to send their kids to trade schools, to jobs, to universities, to apply for those things without explicit racial discrimination, which is something that I guarantee you we all know is happening in this country right at this very minute. They dream of being able to go into the drugstore and buy pharmaceutical ingredients, antibiotics that were not manufactured by America's biggest enemy, the Communist Chinese Party. They dream of being able to send their kids to the Marine Corps and to the other military branches where they're not kicked out for refusing to take a vaccine for a disease that is not a danger to those young kids. They dream of a country where the Attorney General puts the people in jail who burn down American cities, not the people who are protesting peacefully at their kids' school. And those people, ladies and gentlemen, are our people, whether they are conservatives, whether they vote Republican every time, the people who just want a good life in the country that their grandparents and great-grandparents built, the people who want their children to have a better life than they did, they are winnable. They are winnable in 22 more than any other time. I'm J.D. Vance. You can go to my website. I'm at jdvance.com. And I want you to support me. I want you to make phone calls for me. I want you to go out there, if you're in Ohio, and knock on doors for me. Because the dreams of our citizens are never going to become a reality when you have a president like the one that we have right now and a weak, fake congressman named Tim Ryan in Ohio who is actually fighting against the very working people that he swore an oath to protect and defend. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a chance in 2022 to take this country back, to fight for this country's values, and we are not going to do it unless we get engaged, unless we get energized, unless we recognize that in November of 22, we are going to send a message to the fake media, to the propagandists, to the Joe Biden administration. We are going to send a message that the American people, we have dreams too, and it's time to fight for them. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
There's really a great desecration going on. Anything that's good, anything that's holy, anything that's truthful is being attacked.
There is no end. These people will never get tired. They will never stop until you stop.
The land of the free.
More than half the registered voters saw their freedom threatened by a growing cancel culture.
under siege by an enemy from within.
The Black Lives Matter movement is a Marxist organization.
We will burn down this system and replace it, all right?
They do all have one thing in common, and that is an internet mob mentality.
Troubling allegations. Fired after accusations of racism. A modern-day witch hunt.
Another challenge to free speech. They'll harass you, they'll vilify you.
Cancel culture is real, and it's coming to a neighborhood near you.
You will lose your job, you'll be kicked out of the store, you won't have your place in society. They want you to be quiet.
What's been shocking to watch is that the press, they're part of cancel culture.
The New York Times fired their editor because he dared to run an op-ed from a Republican senator.
They don't want to debate. Free speech is unhelpful to them.
I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. Calling parents domestic terrorists. If we take over these school boards, we can combat the ridiculousness and the racist aspects of critical race theory. They canceled the President of the United States when it was my father.
You've got terrorist groups like the Taliban, and they have a Twitter account, but an American president does not.
This week, Twitter and Facebook under fire.
Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report?
We cannot sit back. We've watched in history this happen before. This is where we've got to stand up and not allow this to go on.
This is the fight that we were put on this earth to make.
The culture killers.
Even this conversation you're having with me right now on Twitter would be banned. I mean, this is like beyond Orwell now.
한미애국교회 창립 2주년을 맞아 우리 가정은 물론 국가의 존립조차 위태롭게 만드는 성평등에 대한 모든 진실을 알리는 자리를 마련했습니다. 차세대를 겨냥한 정체성 혁명과 그 배후를 주제로 김태호 목사와 세라킴 사모가 평등법의 실체와 오해를 샅샅이 풀어드립니다. 행사는 8월 14일 주일 오후 3시 휴스턴 한인제일교회에서 열리며 유튜브로 생중계됩니다.
I told Congresswoman Green, I said, everyone here is waiting to see you. They want to hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I was just saying, you know, Sarah and I, we need a whole hour out here with you guys. What do you think?
We would love to do it. They are going to keep us on a timer, so I'm going to start off with the first question. And I told you, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to these allegations that came up and lies. We saw memes and lies. I showed you one of them, trying to compare your statements to Adolf Hitler.
Well, there we go. The laughter from the crowd is exactly right. Well, you know what, Sarah, I take that very seriously. Ever since I've become a member of Congress, I've been the most attacked member of Congress in United States history, and I'm appalled by it, and so is my family, and so are my friends, and so are my district. Being kicked off committees and lied about constantly in the media is disgusting, and all of us are fed up with it. But when I said that I'm a Christian nationalist, I have nothing to be ashamed of, because that's what most Americans are. We're proud of our faith. We're proud of our faith, and we love our country. And that will make America great again. When we lean into biblical principles, you know, is there anything wrong with loving God and loving others? No. And when we lean in, and the Republican Party is the party that serves America and Americans first, then we really will win, and the Democrats will not destroy our country. So I don't back down from those comments, but I denounce the lying media for what they've said. Enough of it.
And you've seen that over and over again. This is an issue that has been first and foremost, I think, ever since 2016 specifically. We saw the nation, you know, in turmoil, political turmoil, the weaponization of our agencies, the targeting attacks on President Trump, as well as other Republicans who supported him. Talk a little bit about that and how that not only affects the members of Congress and how you're going to handle that in the future, but affects the American people.
Well, I think it affects all of us, and what I've seen in Washington ever since I've gotten there is fear. Because of these lies in the media, and look at what we've all dealt with. Why is it that the mainstream media, and why is it that the trolls all over social media, and you know the ones that run the big tech platforms, why do they get to lie about President Trump, his administration, Republicans like me? Why does CNN get to sell the Russian collusion lie over and over and over again, and now sell Liz Cheney's lie of January 6th over and over and over again? Why do they get to call me horrific names and call you horrific names, kick all of you off of social media and silence your voices? Why do they get away with it? But yet at the same time, Sarah, you want to know something? Like somebody like Alex Jones, who did say some things, but yet he is being politically persecuted right now and being forced to pay out millions and millions of dollars. And no one agrees with what he said, but what we're tired of is the political persecution. I'd like to know when the Democrats and the liars in the media and the people that canceled all of you and me on big tech, when are they going to pay all of us millions of dollars, right? Well, I tell you what, Sarah, here's this. When Republicans take back the House, I'm going to be one member of Congress that's there to hold everyone accountable. And I think that's the most important thing I can do.
Let's talk about that. When Republicans take back the House, if that happens this November, what are going to be your main priorities? And they're talking about you for oversight right now.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, do you guys want to see me on the Oversight Committee? Yeah, there'll be some fire coming out of that committee. Sarah, you have reported on some incredible abuses, just outright breaking laws, horrible things that we've seen from our politicians, and those are the type of things I'd like to go after. Here, I'll just give you guys a few. What do you guys think about Anthony Fauci and Dr. Rachel Levine? Yeah, I think any doctor that practices Frankenstein science that led to the creation of COVID-19, I think he should be fired. What do you guys think?
That's a very good point. Yes. Because, and just to clarify for everyone, Senator Rand Paul has been very open about this as well. There's been evidence that the Wuhan laboratories knew that when the virus was released, it would go across the globe. Now there's evidence that NIH funded Wuhan laboratories.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is accurate. Are you saying there will be consistent and absolute oversight over what happened? Are we going to get to the truth, what happened with China and the NIH?
Yes, absolutely. Not only do we need to get to the truth, we need to hold them accountable. If they can have a fake January 6th committee that is persecuting President Trump's administration and staff, innocent people, and if they have a judicial system, a Department of Justice, and an FBI that has led to the persecution of American citizens that did go in the Capitol on January 6th, but now they're being held in jail still to this day, that they need to be held accountable. We can't be the Republican Party that just talks the talk on the campaign trail anymore, Sarah. We have to be the Republican Party that delivers.
Yeah. As far as the Republican Party, do you feel that there are divisions within the Republican Party as well, that you're standing up to maybe, and we've heard this before, an establishment? Will we see more unification of that Republican Party come November or 2024?
Well, I will tell you this, and I've always been open and honest about it. There is a civil war in the GOP. But I'll tell you what, Sarah, I lean into it because I know that iron sharpens iron, and there's one way to resolve our disagreements, and that's by fighting it out inside in our meetings and in our offices, and that's what we've been doing. We've been doing it for months. But here's what I really want to see from our Republican conference. Like I said, our voters, and I've been saying this, our voters and our donors and everyone that supports the Republican Party, they aren't going to support us if we do not stop what's happening to America. We're a country with over $30 trillion in debt. We're a country that has wide open borders. We're a country that is in a recession, no matter how they define it. We are a country where our children are being brainwashed that they can change their gender when absolutely they cannot. Each of us are made in the image of God, in his image, male and female in his image. And if we're the Republican Party that is willing to not only close our borders to the daily border invasion, if we're the Republican Party that isn't capable of stopping the crime and putting criminals in jail, if we're the Republican Party that isn't capable of defending children and protecting them from genital mutilation, puberty blockers, and just outright perverse teachings in our taxpayer-funded schools, then what kind of party are we? And we will not deserve, nor will we get the support from our base. And so I will be urging my colleagues, look, we've got to fight harder than ever before because the Democrats have showed us who they are, Sarah, and you've seen them. You have reported on it over and over. Oh, and we have to stop them.
You brought up a great point. Yeah, she brought up a very good point here. Seeing who someone is. It's important that certain positions in government carry certain qualities. Now, I'm not going to put you completely on the spot here as for House Speaker, but what are... Right? I mean, you can go there if you want, but what are the qualities that you look for in a Speaker of the House?
What I'm looking for is fearless leadership. I'm looking for a speaker that's not going to be pushed around by the lobbyists and the corporate PACs because I don't take their money. And I'm looking for a speaker that is going to think about those small business owners the same way they think about the corporate owners and the same way they think about the janitors, the truck drivers, and the factory workers. I want a speaker that's going to put America first, all of your money first, our borders and our children's future above everything. That's the future Speaker of the House.
And my last question, because we had such a short amount of time, and I would have asked her about everything from Hunter Biden to Afghanistan.
And I would have said all my opinions.
What is your advice? What is your advice to your base in Georgia, to the American people, about these midterms and how important it is for each and every one of us to be involved in the political process? Do you have any advice for them?
Absolutely. We are a government for the people and by the people. And ladies and gentlemen, if you sit home and you sit it out, then you're going to keep having the government that you have. And that's what's happened for decades now. We haven't held them accountable. And I take as much blame as anyone. What you have to do is you have to show up and vote, even if you don't trust your elections. Because if we sit it out on the sideline, it's like watching a battle rage in front of us and not going in to fight. We have to get in there to vote. You have to volunteer and work the polls. You have to make sure that they count the ballots correctly. And I think in Arizona, we just saw some crazy shenanigans, but some great people won. But we have to care. If we want the country that we know we have and we know we love and we know we're going to continue to fight for our kids in the future, we have to show up. And that's how we're going to hold them accountable, and that is how we're going to help and make this country great again, because I know it can be done. And I believe in you to do it more than myself. So thank you so much.
Everyone, Congresswoman Green.
절세의 지혜를 나눠드립니다. 이상회계법인
고객과 직원을 지켜주는 스니즈가드. 지금 주문하세요. 배너앤프린트.
한 곳에서 시작되는 안정된 미래. 선우앤선우 종합보험.
깨끗한 물로 샤워하세요. 알카 하이드로 정수 필터 샤워기. 팬데믹 위기 속에서 인터넷 서비스 기업으로 성장한 배너앤프린트.com.
각종 인쇄물, 배너, 스티커, 간판, 스니즈 가드까지 필요하신 모든 작업을 두고두고 마음에 드시게 해드립니다. bannerandprint.com.
전국 어디서든 웹사이트로 주문하시면 원하시는 디자인을 빠르게 출력해 신속하게 배송해 드립니다. bannerandprint.com 678-274-7275.
안녕하세요. 이상회계법인의 이상엽입니다. 30년 동안 아틀란타 한인사회에 봉사한 역사와 경험을 바탕으로 여러분들의 세무 회계 관리와 재정 은퇴 계획을 상담해드리고 있습니다. 부자 되세요.
Hello, Texas. Now let me just let's do a little audience poll, David. Do you guys want to hear about all the plans that we have for the new right? Are you ready for a new right? Are you ready for new ideas to actually take the fight to the front lines? Because that's where we live and we're not stopping. That's what we're going to talk about.
So let's start from there, right? Because we hear about the new right all the time. That this term gets bandied about. It's a lot of different factions. It's a lot of different things. You know, briefly, what does it mean to you? Those two words.
So for me, when I hear the new right, I think the best way I could encapsulate it is if you think about the founding fathers of the new right, and I think in my view, the two founding fathers of the new right are Andrew Breitbart and Rush Limbaugh. Can we get a round of applause for Andrew Breitbart and Rush Limbaugh?
That's interesting, because I think that when you look at the new right and all of the factions, there are really a core four issues that everybody agrees on.
Right.
We need a strong border.
Yes.
We can't have bad trade deals.
Yes.
We need energy independence.
Yes.
And we have to fight the culture war.
Yes.
Now, on all of these, Breitbart and Rush were there, and the GOP wasn't.
Exactly.
Right? The GOP wanted the border deals with the Democrats. They love trade deals. I mean, my God, there wasn't.
If you do not talk about the borders, immigration, and trade, the coalition will fall apart. It will completely fall apart. That is the center of it, and the outside piece, sort of almost the animating force, is fighting the culture wars against whether it be woke corporations, whether it be media, whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, whether it be everybody that Kerry Lake had to fight against a couple nights ago. I just got back from Maricopa County, and we all know about Maricopa County. But we put Maricopa County in their place, and we listen to the people, not the bureaucrats.
But isn't part of that culture war piece that Republicans were so afraid of being seen as big government, right? Everything had to be limited government.
Right.
And then we saw what DeSantis did this year with Disney. He smacked Mickey Mouse in the mouth.
Yes.
And
But wait, unpack that for a second, because for everyone, and we cheered, but think about that. Imagine a state relationship with a company between Florida and Disney, and the amount of money that Disney has provided to that state, the amount of tourism, even the outside, the secondary, tertiary economic effects of Disney being in Orlando, right? This is one of the most powerful companies in the entire state of Florida. So from a perspective, it makes sense that the governor would not want to go up against them. And that's why you saw a series of governors who refused to do this. They would work together and walk the line. Governor DeSantis decided to be the one that said, you know what, it's too far. And these companies, when they step onto the political arena, when they decide to become politicized, now you're not just part of the economy of our area. Now you're trying to tell us how we should live, how our children should be raised, what we should teach in our schools. And that is not the job of corporate America. That's the job of the people and the representatives of the people.
And I think the effect wound up going so far beyond Disney. I guarantee you, 2 years ago, had the Dobbs decision come down, overturning Roe v. Wade, every corporation in this country would have been tweeting about it. Of course. Hollywood and Major League Baseball would have been pulling events out of all the states. None of that happened this time.
No.
The silence was eerie. And the reason that those corporations were silent was because Ron DeSantis and all of you, quite frankly, have let them know that there is a price to pay if they interfere in the culture and the politics of the United States, and that's not going to change.
No, you're exactly right, because they can sense that the ground has shifted under their feet. And, you know, Klaus Schwab has got his great reset, and I just went over there, by the way, if you guys know, we were over in Davos, and I was doing a hit for the War Room. Do you have any War Room fans? Maybe one or two? Okay, I think I see one or two hands in the back. Yeah, a couple of guys have heard of it. And we're doing a hit for there, but then we're also doing a documentary for Turning Point USA. And Klaus Schwab sent his goons out to detain me, right, while I was doing a documentary on the Great Reset. And while I'm standing there with these World Economic Forum assigned police, 9mm, guns drawn, and I'm sitting in the back of my head, I said, we are such a threat to you. We are such a threat to this agenda because they have the Great Reset, we have the Great Awakening.
So let me...
And this is what you're saying, because the WEF, this is corporate power.
Yes, but I kind of described the four things that I think we all have in common on the new right. I do think there's one area, and by the way, all four of those were core Trump issues.
Yes.
Trump was less clear in terms of foreign policy, right? Trump's foreign policy was very transactional. You never knew what he was going to do. There wasn't exactly a doctrine. So when it comes to Ukraine and it comes to those issues, you and I have been sort of on different sides of this. And whereas on those four issues, the new right arrived and voters were already there, Republican voters have been supportive of Ukraine, I think because it's against Russia, right? And Russia has traditionally been the enemy. Like, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. If the Dallas Cowboys play Satan, I'm rooting for Satan, you know. Don't make us sing.
He knew what would happen if he said it. He knew.
But listen, but I do think that a lot of people are getting to the point where it's like, we can't spend $10 billion a month to protect 15 miles in the Donbass.
And I think that's, and look, I just got back we were in Odessa, we were in Lviv, we were in Mykolaiv, and I've seen it on the ground. And my question was, if we're sending over $60 billion of U.S. money, where is it? Where's the $60 billion, Joe? What have you done with this? What percentage? And when you look at the laptop, and we were some of the first people to have that laptop, and I think that the American people want to support the people of Ukraine, but they inherently know that there's something going on in between us supporting them and the money not going to where it needs to be. And that is where you get politicians, connected families, oligarchs, the whole nine yards.
But more broadly, what is the American foreign policy that on the one hand keeps us out of expensive entanglements, but on the other hand doesn't just hand geopolitical foes like Russia and China and Iran win after win after win? How do we balance this?
So this is something that I've actually talked about, and I say this as a Navy officer, that it's deterrence, right? Because if you have strategic deterrence and credible deterrence, we just took out Zawahiri, maybe, right? You know, there's some questions about, you know, was he taken out before, et cetera. But the idea is, we can reach out, as we would say in the military, we can reach out and touch somebody without having to go on board with occupying countries and nation building and spending trillions of dollars in the Middle East instead of rebuilding Detroit and Chicago and getting our cities under control, doing something about crime here, that we can be effective on the world stage.
So, I mean, but what does that look like? Does that look like Trump saying to Putin, if you invade Ukraine, I'm going to, there were reports that he said, bomb Moscow.
He himself said about the
he himself says that he put quite a threat out there. But that's his personality. How do we apply Trump's personality to a foreign policy doctrine, or can we?
So you look at Taiwan right now. Taiwan is currently encircled by the Chinese PLA, by the Chinese Navy. They're firing missiles over the island. And you look at our U.S. Navy, and I'm sorry to say this, but as a prior 7th Fleet sailor, we need to fix our Navy, because we're getting trained in wokeness, not training in how, what the military is for is to hurt people and break stuff.
I do agree with me that,
so if you reestablish that
credible deterrence, I think that solves a lot of
Yes. So back to the broad question of the new right. Are we or aren't we at the point where we can stop calling this the new right and just call it the right? Because
I've actually been saying that a little bit. I've been saying that a little bit, and I don't want to do away with conservatism, and I say this as someone who's, I'm a dad, I'm God-centered, my family's God-centered, we have so many great publications out there, we're doing human events, we're doing all the new stuff, but we need to understand that I think there's a broader section of people that need to hear that it is new. Okay. That it's still the new right. It's not, your granddad's, we're going to go along to get along. We're going to do the pay to play.
How broad can it be? I mean, obviously it's not going to include Liz Cheney, but doesn't it have to include a Malliotakis or a Katko or Northeast Republicans who
I'm transactional. Okay. I'm transactional. You need the person for the district, but at the same time, you've got to be on board with our agenda. You don't get to dictate our agenda.
I think that makes sense. And I think we came in right on time.
I think we did. Look at that. Should we end on time, folks? What do you think? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new right. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
God bless. I got to say that.
탈모 샴푸. 머릿결은 포기해야 되나?
더나 플러스 모르나?
66가지 자연 유래 성분과 영양 성분으로 힘있는 모발에 세정력, 머릿결, 두피 건강까지 빠짐없이 다 잡았다. 자연을 담은 탈모 샴푸 더나 플러스.
더나 플러스 탈모 샴푸 미주 출시 기념 특별 세일. 500ml 샴푸 2통과 앰플까지 89불. 가까운 판매처에서 만나세요.
잊지마! 공석 탈모엔 더 나나나.
수소수는 우리 체내의 활성산소를 줄여 항산화 및 노화 방지, 피부 미용, 독소 제거, 당뇨 및 면역력 개선 효과에 탁월합니다. 알카하이드로의 수소 알카리 이온수기는 1100ppb 이상 수소를 함유하는 대한민국 최초 수소수 생성 특허를 보유하고 있으며 알카리 이온수를 생성하는 대한민국 의료기기 인증 제품입니다. 수소수 정수기 알카하이드로 404-989-2000번 404-989-2000번.
저 안드레스 투자의 답을 드리겠습니다.
한미애국교회 창립 2주년을 맞아 우리 가정은 물론 국가의 존립조차 위태롭게 만드는 성평등에 대한 모든 진실을 알리는 자리를 마련했습니다. 차세대를 겨냥한 정체성 혁명과 그 배후를 주제로 김태호 목사와 세라킴 사모가 평등법의 실체와 오해를 샅샅이 풀어드립니다. 행사는 8월 14일 주일 오후 3시 휴스턴 한인제일교회에서 열리며 유튜브로 생중계됩니다.
Culture killers. Even this conversation you're having with me right now on Twitter would be banned. I mean, this is like beyond Orwell now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're next. The rise of the Democrat Gulag. Please welcome former Chief of Staff to the United States Secretary of Defense, Kash Patel. From Arizona, Congressman Andy Biggs. Founder of the Walk Away campaign, Brandon Strzok. And your moderator, former Associate White House Political Director to President Reagan, Jeffrey Lord.
Welcome, Cpac. My pronouns are Reagan and Trump. Well, I'd like to get right to it. We have a little less than 20 minutes here. I just want to start by reading a couple headlines to get the flavor of what we're going to be talking about. This is from The Atlantic. The DOJ must prosecute Trump. This is from CNN. New York's AG's investigation against Trump can continue, federal judge rules. From Fox, Tucker Carlson. Why are January 6 protesters still in jail while murderers walk free? Forbes. Facebook banned over 1.3 billion accounts over 3 months to combat fake and harmful content. And from RT, Facebook bans pro-Trump walkaway group as social media turns up censorship crackdown. So with that, let me turn to Congressman Biggs and just get this rolling and get your thoughts.
Well, when we start talking about a gulag, I think of a couple of things. First of all, it's political prisoners.
Right.
And I also think of Soviet-style justice, where there is no justice, where everything is baked in already, where you've got prosecution colluding with the defense attorneys, colluding with the judges. They know what they want to accomplish. The police apparatus of the United States, whether it's DOJ based, they know what they want to do, and for political purposes, all of the institutions of the United States have been weaponized, not unlike the former Soviet Union.
Right.
That's what I think of when I think of gulag, an American gulag.
I agree. Cash?
Well, as a former federal public defender and, Justice Department national security prosecutor, it's insane to me and unconstitutional to see January 6 defendants who have little or no criminal history, nonviolent backgrounds, north of 60 years old, being detained for over a year on offenses that would never seek pretrial detention. And that what Congressman Biggs is talking about, it's not just the Department of Justice, it's not just the attorney generals. They've weaponized the intelligence community and the law enforcement community, but they've also got the judges. There is no federal judge in this country that could possibly detain the majority of these people, yet they're letting illegal immigrants who commit murder and rape walk out on bond, with American citizens charged with misdemeanor offenses or low-level felonies. That is the definition of a third world gulag, and it's happening in Washington, D.C.
Right. Brandon, let's hear a little bit about your experiences here. And
So I guess what I could say is that I was present on January 6th, as I think most people know. I was scheduled to be a speaker at the Capitol on that day. I was approaching my scheduled speaking engagement when I began getting text messages from people who were watching at home saying that they were hearing that people were going inside of the building, which made me very curious because that sounded like an unusual circumstance. I was on the east side of the building, which is the opposite side of the building, where later we found out people had broken windows and committed acts of violence. When I arrived, the doors on the east side of the building were open. I walked up to the top of the steps and I shot a video for 8 minutes, which I put on Twitter. I never entered the Capitol. I stood on the east side steps for 8 minutes. 2.5 weeks later, an FBI SWAT raided my apartment, put me in handcuffs, and took me to jail. I sat in jail for days, and when I got out, I found out I was facing multiple felony charges and a misdemeanor, and this began what became well, it hasn't ended. It's actually, in the last couple of weeks, they're coming after me again on new things related to my case, which I thought was over. Because I stood on the east side steps for 8 minutes, I have been permanently banned by PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, Patreon, email services. I've been put on a terrorism watch list so that when I go to the airport, I have to go through hours of screening. But what I want to say and make really clear while I have this stage is what's been most horrifying of all is not the behavior of the left. It's been the silence of the right. Ooh. And I'd like to finish my point. Between the years of 2018 and 2020, nobody worked harder for President Trump than I did. I'll go toe-to-toe with any person in this room if they think they did more for President Trump than I did. Nobody worked harder for the Republican Party. Nobody got more people to walk away from the Democratic Party and become a Republican. True. And for me to go through what I went through and not have a single person stand up and say, we've got your back and this is wrong, is disgraceful. It's a disgrace.
And I think it's time to stop it.
So while we have a congressman on stage, I want to ask, what are you guys going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because you can come out here and repeat the talking points all you want, but that doesn't change a thing. And if you can even name the names of 5 people sitting in the DC prison right now, I'll write you a check for $10,000.
I'm happy to answer. You done, Brandon?
Hang on. Congressman, go ahead.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate the frustration. But I want you to know that it wasn't nobody that stood up and declaimed and criticized what was happening to you and other January 6th prisoners. It is still happening. It is still happening. But I will tell you this.
Come on, because we don't have a lot of time.
There are probably a dozen of us who have attempted to get into jails. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Who have attempted to raise this and elevate this to where I think it needs to be, and that is to attack what's going on the other side. We didn't get the support from a majority of Republicans. I'm just going to be frank with you. But we continue to push, and I've worked with lawyers who have represented members, individuals in jail.
Do you think it's odd that I haven't heard from a single sitting member of Congress with what I've gone through on the Republican side? Do you think that's odd?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
And I have contacted people who have taken my phone calls. I have not been approached by anyone. And you sat on my stage in 2019 at a walkway event. You know me.
I do know
you. You probably have my phone number.
I don't know if I do or not, but I do know this, that I have worked with lawyers who have represented J6 defendants. I have met with them. We have tried to come up ways to devise to protect as much as possible. What you went through is not just inappropriate, it's inhumane, it's unjust, and
I'll say,
and it's un-American.
And it's not over.
And it's not over. And I realize there are things we can do, and there are probably 10 or 12 of us in Congress that are trying to do something. I am one of those. And
wait, hang on a second. Hang on.
Hey, look, come on.
That doesn't help anyone. So just because they're in, and I know Congressman Andy Biggs and a couple other guys that have been fighting in Congress, just because they get drowned out by other people who fail to act on January 6th defendants' behalf doesn't mean that people aren't fighting for them quietly or getting drowned out in the media. I've seen what he's done. People have stood up foundations. They've tried to get in the jails, and the former federal prosecutor and public defender who actually defended rapists and murderers and narco traffickers and got them bond. Nobody cared, but there is a group that cares. These people are funneling money through foundations to help J6 defendants. I know I'm doing it. We don't do it for the notoriety, and this congressman, along with a few others that I can name, isn't out there trying to claim the media grab for it. And whether or not you personally hear from someone doing something, I think it is dismissive of the people that are doing the work on the front lines. And there are a lot of people doing that work. So I won't stand for anybody who thinks everybody's doing nothing. A lot of people are doing too much of nothing, but there's a few people doing a whole ton of stuff to support the January 6th movement. I was the first one subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. It cost me $200,000. I didn't complain about it. I went there, testified, and have demanded my transcript be public so the world knows what the truth about January 6th. Those are efforts people can also get behind to support January 6th and the truth and all of the J6 defendants.
I just want to add to that. There is a reason that 5 of us have been attacked by this January 6th committee. There's a reason that we have been threatened with prosecution. There's a reason that 5 of us have been attacked. And I'm one of those. And it isn't because I've sat silent, and it isn't because I haven't been fighting.
You happen to be the congressman who's sitting across from me right now, so just to be clear, yeah, you're taking the brunt of a lot of my heat right now, but that's because you happen to be here. I wish I could talk to every single one of you right now, today. I wish I had all of you here. Yeah. But let me also say, if you want to be out there fighting for J6 defendants and you want to be out there fighting for the truth and for justice for people, the first logical step to take would be contact people and ask them what they've been through. You guys have no idea what's going on. You don't. You might think that you do, but you don't. It's not normal for people facing misdemeanor charges to be committing suicide. That's not normal. 3 January 6 defendants have committed suicide. 2 of them were facing misdemeanor charges. It's not normal for people on first offense misdemeanors to be spending months in federal prison. That's not normal. And I do talk to J6 defendants, people that I've gotten to know since I was arrested, and we all share the exact same torment, which is we expect the left to be terrible. The left's doing what the left does. They're being evil, they're being duplicitous, they're being horrible. But where the hell is our team? Yeah. Where are our people? So, because, hold on. Oh, I thought because we teach them by how we respond and how we react to things. When they see me getting the hell kicked out of me for a year and a half and you guys doing nothing, it teaches them that they can do it to them and them and them and them and them. They're next. Right. You know, because who's going to stand up for you? But
come on, let him speak. We got a little over 7 minutes left.
And I want to encourage everyone here to come to Cpac Central and come to my booth, because we've designed a performance art piece where you can hear the actual stories of real January 6 defendants and what they have been through. We have headsets that you can put on and listen to them tell their stories, because nobody's listening to these people. Come to the walkaway booth at Cpac Central so you can hear for the first time from these people who are suffering. 3:45, come down to the booth. We'll be down there. Come down there and experience this.
I'd like to ask, what can be done to punish the people who are doing this?
Great.
Yeah. So first of all, I appreciate that I'm your piñata today. That's fine. That's fine. But the reality is, there are a dozen of us who have met with families of survivors, of those who have killed themselves, and we have done it sometimes overtly and sometimes quietly. But I appreciate, to some extent, the anger that you're manifesting today. I don't think anybody can understand it, because I haven't lived it. I've lived my own deal, which is nothing compared to you. And I appreciate you sharing your feelings today. Now, having said that, how you punish these people is you get control back of the government. And we don't have control of the government right now. We sit there, I'm in a minority of the minority. We have to get the House back, we have to get the Senate back. And then we have to bring them in, and there are things you can do. You can do the Holman Rule. And that's what you do, is you start defunding some of these bad agencies, the FBI, the DOJ. You use the Holman Rule to defund people who have abused their power. You bring impeachment articles against the judges who have violated due process rights in the federal statutes, for instance, on pretrial detention. Unlike Cash, I've gone through a lot of these files. I don't see any basis for pretrial detention. You violated international law by keeping people in solitary confinement for more than 4 weeks. That's torture. And our country has devolved to that. The way you do it is you have to get control of the government. And we don't have control of the government.
But what you also have to do, if I could piggyback here, is yes, you have to get control of government. and run righteous oversight investigations like we did Russiagate to expose the biggest criminal conspiracy in U.S. history. It's possible, but what Congressman Biggs is saying, and a few of his colleagues are right, you have to have more than just 10, more than just 20. But the other piece that you have to do that we've been working on is educate Americans on what actually happened on January 6th, because just analogize it to the Russiagate situation. Half of America still thinks President Trump is a Russian asset because they watched the fake news media for 5 straight years. January 6th is the next iteration of that from the radical left. What happened was clear as day. Chief of Staff to the United States Department of Defense sitting in the Oval Office where President Trump authorized up to 20,000 National Guard 2 days before January 6th to secure the Capitol perimeter. Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Bowser shut that request down in writing. If you don't believe it, the documents are online for you guys to go see. Why is that critical? Liz Cheney comes out on national TV last week to try the latest piñata effect, and it's working because everyone is talking about more disinformation from January 6th. She says President Donald Trump, he didn't call you on January 6th and he didn't order the deployment of the National Guard. That's because it's unconstitutional for the military to be ordered by a president domestically. And she knows that because her father was Secretary of Defense during the 92 LA riots. That Secretary of Defense authorized the National Guard to go to California from a governor's request, and that is how it lawfully works. Too much of America is focused on the fact that they said Donald Trump failed or other leaders failed. We acted for the no-fail national security mission like we always did, whether it was killing al-Qaeda, bringing home hostages, or securing our border. Our border within is just as important, and on that day and the days before, we acted righteously. So that information has to get out to the American public just as much as the information we're talking about with Congressman Biggs and Brandon.
I'd like to ask the Congressman one last question, and then I want each of you to take a little time to wrap up your thoughts. Congressman, when, if Republicans take the House, will there be an investigation of the January 6th committee?
Yeah, I believe so. And here's where it takes place. It takes either in the Oversight Committee or the Judiciary Committee. And I've requested the 2 gentlemen who will most likely be the chairman of that committee that they do that.
Okay. Brandon, start closing us out.
I have one last question, and it's not a mean one.
I'm okay with it.
When we take back control of Congress in November and we have this investigation, will you promise me in front of all of these people that I will have the opportunity to testify before Congress about what I went through?
If the chairman don't let you testify, I'll find a way to arrange it so you can come testify somehow.
Excellent.
Okay? All right? Yeah.
Hold on. We got 40 seconds left.
3:45 p.m. I want to see each and every one of you down at the walkway booth so you can see what we're doing to bring to life the stories of January 6th. I want to shake all of your hands and take pictures with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Congressman, close out, and then Cash.
Well, I mean, Brandon has lived the American gulag. He has. But there are others still in there. And until we solve that problem, and where we're going, we're not going to get this thing solved altogether, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
I agree, and so there's a lot more work to be done, and we're going to be fighting endlessly. I'll be out there too with my team, Fight with Cash and the Plot Against the King. If you want to learn and teach Americans and our children what happened on Jan 6th, what happened in Russiagate, come see us outside. I'll be talking to each and every one of you and taking all the photographs you want.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
팬데믹 위기 속에서 인터넷 서비스 기업으로 성장한 bannerandprint.com.
각종 인쇄물, 배너, 스티커, 간판, 스니지 가드까지 필요하신 모든 작업을 두고두고 마음에 드시게 해드립니다. bannerandprint.com.
전국 어디서든 웹사이트로 주문하시면 원하시는 디자인을 빠르게 출력해 신속하게 배송해 드립니다. bannerandprint.com 678-274-7275
안녕하세요. 이상회계법인의 이상엽입니다. 30년 동안 아틀란타 한인사회에 봉사한 역사와 경험을 바탕으로 여러분들의 세무회계 관리와 재정 은퇴 계획을 상담해드리고 있습니다. 부자 되세요.
지금 이제 잠깐 쉬는 시간이고 좀 이따가 다시 이제 연설이 시작이 될 텐데요. 근데 지금 다음번 주제는 지금 한참 이슈가 되고 있는 백신 문제, 코로나 바이러스 문제 뭐 이런 것들이어서 지금 저희가 계속 진행을 했다가는 유튜브 규제를 당할 것 같아서 여기서 일단 잠시 멈추겠습니다. 멈췄다가요. 저희가 한 20분 정도 뒤에 다시 들어오겠습니다. 한 3시 25분경에 또 아주 의미 있는 게 있으니까요. 그때 다시 방송 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 잠깐 멈추도록 하겠습니다.